welcome back to Bob's Repair Shop. Today we are going to be taking a look again at our lovely 1972 Fender Stratocaster. Let's get into it, shall we? So last episode, as you may be able to recall, we did the 5-way switch. There were a few more issues with this guitar that we fixed. Some of the bushings were missing for the strings. I replaced those with some almost period correct ones. Yeah, they are a little bit bigger, but not really that noticeable. But today we're going to be doing a very precise job. Today we are going to be replacing this nut. As you can see, I'm going to point at it with a screwdriver. The previous owner decided that he wanted to change the string spacing of the nut, but it's a bit all over the place and I don't really like it, so we're going to replace it. So first things first, let's get this old nut out. To be doing that, I'm going to be using a tool you've seen me use before. Some fret pullers. They're just pliers with very flatly ground tangs. We're going to just see if we can get it out in one piece. Probably not. No, that's one. And that's two. So that's quite lucky. I've replaced nuts on guitars before where I had to take the nut out in about 40 different pieces, so 2 pieces is not that bad. Okay, so I've already done a little bit of prep work for the new nut. I've shortened it slightly. The blanks for these are usually a bit bigger. However, they're not quite his size yet. As you can see, there's a bit of overhang, which is absolutely fine. We're going to correct that at the last stage of our job. But first, we are going to determine where the slots for the strings need to go. Now, normally I would use the old nut for it, but since what's left of it was double spaced, I can't really find the normal spacing. So I'm just going to get another strap that I have laying about and just take the slot spacing from that one. So I'll be right back.
What are you doing, Bob? You're doing something you're not telling me.
I'm doing your mom. Oh! Now what I've done here is I've taken measurements from a different strap. For my nut spacing, I'm just going to measure that with some calipers real quick to be sure that I'm on the right spot. Therefore, I need to look at some measurements. So give me a moment to check those. Now what I'm looking for is roughly 7 millimeters between strings. So I'm just going to check this. Yes, 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 and yes. So that's exactly the spacing we're looking for. So now it's time to bust out the nut files. Now there is a lot of different ways to cut these slots, especially the depth. That's the most important bit. There are a lot of measurements you can do with feeler gauges and all that. I'm going to mostly do it on feel and see where we go from there. So first, we're going to sort out all the files that we need. And we do have a fair few of them. So now that I have all the files that we need, we're going to make some small slots. We're going to make them a lot deeper, but just to get the spacing right. So yeah, let's do that. Oh, I love this sound.
Squeaky bone.
That's the tone, that is. So the next thing I'd like to do is actually, now that the strings have a little bit of a groove to fall in, is get some strings on there. So let's do that. Now I was working on this and I unfortunately noticed that the nut itself the nut blank that I was delivered is unfortunately very crooked, which is a bit weird. I don't know how that happened. This is how it got delivered to me. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and back to another nut blank. This one's from the same package. This one is all the way straight. And we're going to have to start over from that. So first let me make some preliminary markings. to space it out about right. I'll see you back in a few minutes when I have a new nut blank and some strings on.
Lovely.
As you can see, we've got some strings on. However, the nut's still a bit wide and a bit high. So we're going to need to carefully, string by string, take these slots and make them a bit deeper until we've got a desired action at the first fret. Let's see. I'm going to start with a 42 gauge. It's just a matter of filing it out. Now, what I forgot to mention, by the way, is that all these files, they look the same, but they're not. All of them have a different thickness. So every file is for a different string. It's not just taking a file to all the strings. You have to very meticulously take the right thickness of file and be very careful with it because it's a very precise and meticulous process. Now what I ultimately want to measure is when I put my finger on the 4th fret, I want there to be a little bit of room between the fret and the string, and as you can see there's quite a lot of it now. That means we've got a bit more filing to do. As you can see in the close-up here, this process is very, very dusty, so be sure to do this in a somewhat in an environment which you can easily clean, otherwise there is going to be dust everywhere. Right, quite a bit of filing later, you can see by the remnants of the dust that are there. We've got the first string at a desired height. Now I really do this by feel and experience, so yeah, one string, nice height, let's do it 5 more times. Something else I like to do is round it off at the end, so therefore the string has minimal friction when it goes through the nut. Obviously we will be lubricating this when everything is said and done, so that there's minimal friction on the nut, which improves tuning stability a lot. Alright, now that we've done some more preliminary shaping, the slots are where I'd like them to be. They're nice, low enough, not too low. There's friction, but not too much. We're going to do some more shaping to the nut itself. Obviously, we're going to take the sides away. We're going to make this flush with the fretboard. But also, and this is something that is very finessey, is we're going to take some of the top off. The one thing that's sort of the biggest enemy in tuning stability is friction. And you want to have as little around the string from the nut as you can get away with. Therefore, we're going to also take some away of the top of the nut, but not too much, otherwise your string will pop out when you're bending. So that is a bit of a finagly process, which means more sanding and more dust. Let's go. Right, now as you can see, I've done quite a bit of shaping to the nut. I'm going to take a little bit more material on the top of. The strings could be a little bit less far in there, and I need to lube it up as well to once again prevent friction. And that's something I'm just going to do off camera. We're basically there, that's all there is to it, that's all the steps. This is very much a process for which I recommend please come to us with it. There is literally about 1/100 of a millimetre makes the difference between an excellent nut and a horrible one, so please have a pro look at it like us. Right everyone, that also concludes our 2 episodes on this lovely 1972 Fender Strat. It's going to need a bit more setup, a bit more intonation done to it as well, but that's something you've seen me done before, so I won't do it again. Once again, have a last look at this lovely guitar, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.